this customer snowboard here, there's a couple of gouges. One of them is very minor, and one of them is pretty major gouge called a core shot. And we're going to show you how to differentiate between the two and how to fix them. This is a great example of two different kinds of gouges in the snowboard base. This one here is more of a cosmetic type of gouge. You could ride on it all day long and it wouldn't harm your snowboard at all. Would affect your ride very little. You could even fix this one at home. This gouge here is the core shot, and what defines a core shot is when the gouge has gone through the plastic and is either into the wood core or to the fiberglass. That takes a different kind of repair, and that is a repair you must fix immediately after you noticing it, because if you don't fix this repair, what will happen, maybe not when you're on the snow, but if you leave your board in the car overnight in freezing temperatures, water will get in here and it will expand as it freezes and it will delaminate your base. If you look real closely around here, there's some whitish colored areas on the base. This board is already starting to delam over there. So what we have to do is gouge this out even more, kind of like a dentist fixes a cavity in a tooth. So we have to actually make this gouge a little bit bigger to make sure we get all of these delammed base areas out of there, so when we fix it, it doesn't come out. So the first step I'm going to do with my chisel here is get out some of this delammed area, and so we have to cut it out and get down to the base, because if we didn't cut out this bad area, it would remain bad, and the repair we do would not have very good integrity. So we just got to get all of this stuff out, and we'll just continue to work it until we get it all out. You got to make sure you have it all out, all the way to the core, any of the surrounding area that's been compromised, and then we're going to shoot it with our base welder. We have different kinds of PTEX wire up here, as you can see. These two are the same, but then we have the black one for black-based snowboards. Black repairs come out really good because you don't see any of the aesthetically displeasing repair visuals as you do in clear PTEX. However, in clear PTEX, if you have a base like this red one and there's still red under it, and especially in the core shot, it's better to use a clear PTEX and just do a really primo job. So you got black or you got clear. This is regular PTEX wire with no epoxy infused into it. This wire over here is the gnarly stuff. This is the stuff that we have to use when we do any core shots, when we're repairing edges, all the real gnarly stuff. We have to use this wire. And one question is, like, why don't you just use this wire for everything? This stuff is really hard to work with compared to the regular PTEX. You can scrape and apply regular PTEX so much easier than this. This takes a bit of skill, but it works really good. So over here, this contraption here is called our base welder. And what the base welder does, unlike an extruding pistol, which we also have several of those, this uses air and heat at the same time. Because this gets at such a high temperature, we have to use air to make sure that it's not too hot to delaminate the board, yet hot enough to melt the plastic that we're using in the wire to initiate the repair. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to heat the base a little bit so that the wire I'm using is infused with epoxy. There's different kind of wires. On a core shot you need to use a wire infused with epoxy because regular PTEX plastic won't stick to the core. It's coming out a little black, so I'm just going to get it out. I want the customer's board to come out as good as possible. Got a little bit of black wire still stuck in there. So now I got some clean. So we're going to do it again. And right over. You got to be careful that you don't hold it on the area for too long, or you'll actually do more damage than good. After I do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press it down with this metal scraper. This makes sure that all of the epoxy infused plastic that I just put into this core shot adheres properly. I gotta watch for bubbles, D-lams, and everything in between. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to squirt a little bit of water on this to make sure that the areas around the board don't become delaminated, because this is a lot of heat that we just put onto this board. I'm just going to wipe it off with a paper towel. On the other repair that we got to do, the minor one, I'm just going to use regular P-Tex. That comes off of a different spool. Now this wire has no epoxy infused into it. You might ask, why don't you just use the epoxy stuff? This stuff is easier to work with, and it also is aesthetically better looking than the epoxy infused P-Tex wire that we used on the core shot. So here it goes. Again, I'm going to press it down just to make it flat. We should be good to go for scraping. One thing to make sure of before we scrape the board, you have to have a sharp scraper. So what I do is I take one of my rat tail files and I just run it right across the top, going both ways several times. This is going to make for a nice sharp scraper, because especially for the core shot that we just repaired, that epoxy infused plastic is super hard to scrape. So we need a nice sharp scraper. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape the excess P-Tex from the core shot and the minor gouge on this side. You've got to be a little bit careful when you scrape, because if you don't do it right, you'll gouge into the board. You can feel when you're there, and I'm there.